Swanzey Then and Now. Here we go, Lee. We have Lee Dunham here today with me today. I'm Jodi Turner. And we are going to talk about Swanzey, just like the title says, then and now. And there's so much to talk about because there's buildings, there's people, there's a lot that has made Swanzey who it is. What I was really surprised at is that we have more square miles, I believe, than Keene does. I think ours is like 45 and theirs is like 37.
Yeah, we're the largest town in Cheshire County.
Yeah.
45.2, I think it is.
Made up of 5 boroughs, which is, if I miss anything, let me know. Swanzey Center, West Swanzey, North Swanzey, East Swanzey, and Westport.
Yes.
And then you've got like Spriggsville or Spragueville.
Well, if you go way back, you get
Right.
Spragueville, you get Swanzey Factory or Factory Village.
That was all the buckets?
Well, no, that Factory Village was the North Swanzey. One side of the Wilson Pond was Factory Village. The other side was Spragueville.
I didn't realize that. You're probably going to hear me say this a lot.
Unionville was East Swanzey, if you look on old maps.
So Unionville was the buckets.
Yeah. The 1858 Atlas map of Swanzey. You'll find Unionville.
Yeah.
All those different names.
Yeah. Well, today what we're going to do is, because this is one of our first shows, is we are going to look at some maps, some pictures. We're going to just get a little bit of a background about Swanzey, focusing mostly on Swanzey Center today. But there's so much more to talk about, so it's just a matter of where we want to go with this.
Yeah.
So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at some photographs. And we'll just explain to you a little bit about what we're looking at. It might jog a few memories. And as you're watching the show, please plan to, like, if you have photographs or if you have stories or something that you'd really love to learn about, let us know, because this is all about our community and Swanzey. And Lee is here because you have so many photographs. I know your mom, was it mom or grandmother?
My grandmother.
Your grandmother.
She kept everything.
Yeah, which is a great thing. Except that you've got all this stuff.
Yeah, and a bunch of pictures of people I don't know who they are.
Right, but the thing is, we could show those, and people may know who they are. You just never know. Yeah. You never know. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off. So we're going to show a photograph. Let's see what we know about this, and these should all be focused on Swanzey Center. So the first photograph that we're going to look at. The meeting house.
That is the monument that was put up on the site of the first meeting house on Meeting House Hill.
Which
Which we'd probably call it Carpenter Home Hill now. That is right behind the Carpenter Home if you go up the hill.
Would that be in the area that is the field? There's a field as you're going
There's
up
a field
Mount
just
Caesar?
past it. If you look at the old pictures of the Carpenter Home, you'll see a gigantic barn in front of where this actually is. The barn is gone. You can see.
That's probably what that whole.
You can see the
field
granite
was.
work and stuff to the back of it.
So that was 1737.
1737 is when that was built.
The first grant that we received was in
1733 by the governor of Massachusetts.
Right. And that was, we were here for like 3 years? Was that?
It's about 3 or 4 years before they actually stayed overnight and did some building.
Yeah.
And so that's why the 1737 date of that townhouse.
Right.
Now, unfortunately, in 1747, we left and went back.
Yeah.
Indians
and whatever else was going on,
Because when you look at Swanzey, today we're so far away from Concord, nobody knows we're here, and that's sometimes a good thing, and other times a bad thing.
We're down by the river.
But it's also the same with Massachusetts. I mean, we were too far away from forts and soldiers and whatever. Fort Dummer over in Brattleboro, by Vernon, between Brattleboro and Vernon. That was one of the closest forts. And then, of course, Fort Number 4 in Charleston.
Right. Yeah, this is a long ways between anybody, really. I mean, back in those days, when there's no vehicle, there's horses and buggies, I'm sure, if that.
So as they've developed the first settlement, If you've ever looked at the Swanzey history and seen that map with a meeting house hill in the middle of it and a sort of diamond shape around it and then two legs.
Maybe a fort?
One goes down to Sawyer's Crossing Road down to the bridge. The other side goes down by the church. And that meeting house hill right in the center where Carpenter Home is.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that sort of gives you an idea when you look at that map, what you're looking at,
Right.
where you're looking at.
Yeah. So the meeting house was there in 1737, but something happened again, and then we really had a meeting house in we came back in 1947? I mean, not 1747.
In 1747, we left. We came back.
We got another grant.
Two or three years later, we came back
Right.
and started to rebuild. We got our grant from the state of New Hampshire
Right.
in 1753.
And, 50, now
So
is
if
this
you
the
look at the town
Bennington
seal,
Wentworth?
yeah,
grant?
yeah.
Okay.
You'll see on the town seal it says 1753. However, I've never seen us celebrate that.
No.
I've seen us celebrate 200 years in 19. Well, I haven't seen it.
Oh,
I
so
wasn't
they
old-
go back to
I
the
wasn't old-
1930s?
yeah,
Yeah.
I wasn't old enough. But in 1933 is the 200th anniversary celebration. That was a big deal.
Yeah. So they're actually going back to the very, very
Yeah.
beginning.
And
Right.
then we did 250 in 1983, which I was there for
Yeah.
that one.
So we do have quite a history.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's amazing when I look at some of the buildings now that I've done a little bit of research to know that some of the buildings have come and gone, burned and been rebuilt, and
Lot.
they were something out. They were residents, and they've now become apartment buildings or commercial buildings.
Yeah.
So let's continue on. And
Okay.
today, again, we're just touching on a few things. So if this gets you started on any kind of topics, let us know. All right, the next photo. Aha. What are they digging for here?
There is 1915, and that is the groundbreaking for
the Grange Hall.
Goldenrod Grange building.
Yes.
Now, if you looked 2 or 3 years, I don't know the date that the central house, which was there before,
Okay.
burned.
Right.
I can't tell you. It's probably somewhere in that same region of 1913, 1912,
And that was the residence?
1914.
That was a residence?
No, that was a livery and
Oh.
a tavern,
Oh,
so
okay.
to speak. It was a place to stay on the road because that road was actually the road to Boston.
Right. And they had a stagecoach.
Yep,
Yeah.
stage route. Yep. And behind it there was a barn, and that barn was still
so
there in the
that's the
60s.
space.
My grandfather actually took it down in the late 60s.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So I think the Grange Hall, it's the, what is it called? The Goldenrod Grange, number
Goldenrod
14,
Grange,
114.
114.
That was built in 1916?
1915.
No, it was 1915.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay.
Before that, they held meetings in either some houses or also there's record of them renting the town hall across the street
Yeah.
and having their meetings there.
Yeah. I think from what it sounds like, back then, they just used what they had. Like you've told me before that most meeting houses or most churches were meeting houses beforehand. They just needed a place to be able to gather everybody together.
They were called meeting houses for the most part,
Right.
and they served a dual purpose. One for a place for the town to meet and do their business that they
Right.
had, but also a place where you bought and you bought and made your pew and did everything to it to make it your own. But that's where you worshipped also on Sunday.
Yeah, so interesting. I talked with a person whose name is Carol Lee from the Grange, and she was talking a little bit about some of the things that they used to do, and they used to have like junior Grange members, and then they had different Grange members that were part of the community and then part of the membership, and I never knew all that much about Granges. I just knew that it was where rural people, farmers would get together and they would talk about what they needed to do, for the season.
Yeah.
But they'd also have, dinners, suppers to get along together.
Dinners.
And I just find those kinds of things so interesting to see what they used to do and how we've gotten away from some of those things. I know that we still have church suppers, which is great.
Well, yeah, and you think about the time too.
Right.
You
This is
didn't
what they
have-
did.
There wasn't a lot of restaurants to go
Right.
to, so you had suppers, and most everybody cooked at home.
Right, right. But
But
that's where
it was
maybe
a
you
big
met
thing
your
to go
future
out.
husband or wife, or
It would be a big thing to go out.
Yeah.
I mean, the old homestead, if you get into that, in the early days, the old homestead, when it was going big time and there was 1,500 people there
Right.
every night.
at the Potash Bowl,
At
again
the
in Swanzey
Potash
Center.
Bowl.
Yeah.
They would have suppers at the Grange Hall on one night,
That's
at the
what-
church another night, and
Yeah.
at West Swanzey
And
Church
they would
on the
serve
third.
hundreds
So,
of people. I think it was between 200 and 400 people a night. And then, because Carol Lee was telling me also that they would serve on both floors of the Grange Hall.
Oh,
So
yeah.
people were bringing food up and down the stairs, not an elevator,
No.
but they were bringing food up and down all of those stairs, and then the churches or whatever, and that was a huge thing. And when you see some of those
it was.
pictures of all the people that used to go to the old homestead play.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, let's look at
All
another
right.
picture. Okay, let's see.
There's the Carpenter home. And
That
I remember
is
I
the
told you that
Carpenter home.
if you look at, it's a sort of like a rustic road,
Yeah.
the driveway there.
Isn't that beautiful?
But, you
was a
look,
farm.
that's 1753 is on the front of that house. That's
Wow.
when Ezra, I think it was, Carpenter first came to town.
Yeah.
So he came as the first minister to both Keene and Swanzey.
Wow. I just thought of it as a farm. I didn't realize he was a minister. I didn't know what he did.
That's what
besides-
Ezra did.
Yeah.
Now, when we go down, I think, 2 generations to George,
Mm-hmm.
the one that I think of, I guess, mostly, because he was the last one to live there.
Mm-hmm.
Beside Lucy is actually the last one to live there, his wife, and she was a Wickham.
Surprise.
Wickham and Swanzey. But anyway, George was not, he made his living farming and also tin roofs on railroad bridges and stuff. That's what he did all over the country.
Wow. So if people don't know what the Carpenter home is now, it was given to the town?
Yes, when Lucy died, I believe she died in 27 or 28. And then another couple of years go by, and the will of Lucy was to bequeath the land and building to the town for a home for the Swanzey aged to be taken care of. And the property that was there is there to help defray costs if it has to. And so over the years, it's been logged every once in a while to make money to fix things.
It should be logged anyway. So I think that's a good thing. So is it just for Swanzey residents? Or can
No,
okay.
they
Because
taken,
my great-grandfather
yep.
and my aunt were there, and I remember them when I was like 10 years old, and I didn't realize, I just remembered the Seminoles. That's all I knew.
Yeah.
And
They
I didn't
actually
realize it was called the Carpenter home back then.
Yeah, they stayed there. They took care of everything. They're one of a kind.
Yeah.
You never find somebody to do what they did
Right,
today.
right. Well, from what I've seen when I've been there, and I was there about a year or so ago, I was really impressed with everything. I thought that the facility was
It's a nice,
well run, and it
it's
feels
a nice
homey.
Small facility.
Right,
you know.
right. It doesn't feel
doesn't-
like a facility
Yeah.
so much. Yeah. Okay.
Lucy's still there.
Is she really? In
Well,
heart?
Yeah, in heart.
Yes, okay.
But she's buried right outside the
Is she
property
really?
there.
I didn't know that. Did they have a,
She's.
is
there's
it in
a-
the cemetery? Or,
It's right on the edge of the cemetery.
oh,
So
yeah.
it's not
So she
really
is
in
really
the
still
cemetery,
there.
but each she is,
Yeah.
and George.
yeah, great. Okay, let's see, what's the other picture? Okay, Potash Bowl.
Hey, that's the Potash Bowl.
Yeah,
That's,
it has trees.
yeah, it has. Yeah.
I know, it's gone with trees and no trees and
If
trees
you
and no
look,
trees.
really look closely at that picture, that's before 1939. There is no stage.
Right.
The Potash Bowl is not there.
So tell me what was the Potash Bowl?
Well, the Potash Bowl name came from the deal that this was a place where potash, which was traded at the time, was sort of kept
And what was potash used for?
to make lye soap and
Oh, okay.
fertilizer, whatever. It's a commodity. So That's
So
one of
that's what
those.
that was all about.
Yeah, I can't.
But so that's
I
not,
can't
the
disprove
bowl.
it.
Is it because of the way that it's set up? Is that considered the bowl, or
No,
it just
no.
was named
The
that?
bowl, I think, comes from the fact that it's a natural amphitheater.
Right.
So
So that's
that-
all natural the way it was. They didn't have to dig anything out.
They dug nothing
No.
out. I'll get the name wrong. I'll probably call it the wrong one. There's Willard Adams and there's Harold Adams, and I'll get the wrong Adams. But he was a trustee of the Carpenter home at the time, and he was walking down there as they were getting this idea of the Potash, or the old homestead play going. And he said, "This is a great place to do this."
It
And
is.
so they cleared off what land they had to clear off, built a stage, and in fact, the stage that was built, if you remember the old one, I don't know if
I
you
don't.
do.
I never.
It looks similar to what you see there today,
Uh-huh.
but it was all built out of wood.
Right.
And the story is the wood came from, Public Service had a building right on Main Street on the square in Keene. And in our day, it's stone. But before that, it was wood. Well, the wood came
Well, they
down.
reused everything they could.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was kind of dry in 1978, I think it was. Yeah, December of 78 when it
Yeah.
burned.
Oh, really?
And it burned really fast.
Yeah, I
and
bet. Everything was dry.
completely.
Yeah. So were you able to save any of the props?
Props, you know, being New Englanders, we always move things around. And so the second act furniture was in the refreshment stand. Other things didn't get stored there anyway because they were loaned to us for the play. So a lot of that stuff survived. And the one thing that was in there that we were doomed if it perished was the Grace Church curtain.
And
it
you
was
did save that.
It was on the stage, and it survived.
That is so great.
And the reason it survived, if you worked for the Sentinel, we appreciate you very much, because in the old days when they made the Sentinel, you know, there was like a tin plate that they imprinted the stuff on, and they'd sell that stuff. Well, guess what the box was lined with? That's what it was lined with.
Wow, that's great.
And that's what saved it.
And you know, just speaking of curtains, and you know, we've only got just a few more minutes left to go. We have so much to share with you guys. We could go on forever. But there are so many curtains.
Oh.
When you think of it now, again, like Whitcomb Hall, the Grange has a curtain,
Right.
the Potash, I mean, like all of these places have historical things. And then we've got the historical museum that's over in West Swansea too.
Right.
But we are so lucky to have some of these things still. They're really
Yeah.
old.
Our town hall, I don't know, there was a stage in the town hall that we currently have. I don't know if there was a curtain there, and if there was, what it was. We don't know about that one. We don't know the Grange Hall curtain is there. It's been painted over.
Well, you know, people didn't think about it. Let's yeah.
The Wickham Hall was also a Grange, the Lincoln Grange. So there's a Grange curtain there, and also a backdrop of the Thompson Bridge. So those two survived, and we're going to hopefully bring those back to life when we
Yeah.
get that all
That's great.
fixed up.
Yeah, and as I see it, we'll probably do shows just on Whitcomb Hall, just on the Grange, just
Yeah.
on a lot of these buildings, because there's so much history on these buildings to say. I mean, you just can't touch on it all.
Yeah.
Like with all the things that we're doing, we have lots and lots of photographs to show today, and we're not even going to get through hardly any of them. Let's look at another one and see. Okay. Cresson Bridge?
This is a Cresson Bridge.
Okay.
There's another name for it, and that's called the Kissing Bridge.
That's right. Yes.
And if we go back to, I'll get the name wrong.
He used to have a radio show.
Yes.
Oh, God, I can't think. My grandmother used to listen to him.
Arthur Godfrey.
Arthur Godfrey, yes.
There we go.
Yes, yes.
But Arthur Godfrey was actually given a deed, an honorary deed to
Right.
that bridge
Yeah.
by the governor
Yeah.
at the time, because he put it in a commercial.
When was that? In like the 50s?
It would have been in the 50s,
Yeah.
yeah. I think if I remember right, it was a Chesterfield Cigarettes
Of course.
commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the fire station. Now, this is where the town hall is.
This is the town hall,
Yeah.
the third town hall
Right.
that the town has. It is also the third spot for this fire station.
Really?
Yeah,
And
so
what made them decide to put a fire station underneath the town hall?
Well, that comes from, as we go along, things just got bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
Because they started out in, I believe, 1909. They're the last fire department to start up. And they started up down the road.
That?
Either West Swanzey or East Swanzey or
You might as well
buckets
let
from
it burn because you're never going to get there.
Well, but they started out and they were not called the Swanzey Center Fire Company at that point. They were the Swanzey Chemical Fire Company because what they started with chemical fire extinguishers.
Really?
Okay.
What
And
would
if
they use for chemicals?
It's an acid.
Yeah.
Soda and acid. You've ever heard of soda acid extinguishers? You turn them upside down.
Right.
The acid mixes with water.
Yeah. And that's
creates
what they would use
pressure,
instead of
and
water?
that's what they used when they first started, a big one.
Yeah.
And then from there,
Okay, so that's another show.
that's a
Okay.
whole other show.
Fire stations.
We start out with a small station. We
Yeah.
get to a bigger one, which is still a small station.
Right.
And then the last one is
Right.
underneath.
Yeah. So from what I understand, the city hall, not city hall, town hall, at one point was a church.
Yeah, well,
And we'll talk about that again too.
Well,
We've only
like
got just a few more minutes.
Yeah, like every meeting house.
Right.
It was a meeting house.
Yeah.
It was place of worship, place to do town business.
Right.
But town business, I don't think was much like you see today. You didn't
Right.
have to register a car. You had horses and wagons.
Yeah, and they are
stuff.
really busy there too.
Yeah, it's a whole different world today. But it would be town meeting. Those of us that remember
Yeah.
the original town meeting, where you went and argued your point and made friends and enemies,
Right.
and then you left, and you
Yeah.
were friends when you were done.
Yeah,
So
that was just the way it was.
that's the way
So, okay, so we're getting close to the end of the show. We still have other topics we're not going to touch today, but things like the library.
the library.
You know, we've got the school system. We've got Monadnock High School. We've got the Wilcox School down the other way. We've got Mount Caesar.
Yeah, and if you
These
go
are all
back-
Swanzey Center. We've
Yeah.
got the UCC Church that's just down the road. What else? Again, Wilcox School I mentioned on. Is there anything else in Swanzey Center that you can think of right offhand?
Well, we've talked about the Potash Bowl.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
We're going to have to cut it right here. So what we are going to have to do is make a plan. And as I have said, if you have topics that you'd like to talk about or have us talk about or do some research on, I'm happy to do it. I know you've got lots of photographs. And so what we'd like to do is start sharing those if we can. And if you have stuff to share too, let us know. And we'll try to get them on and
I'd
get the word out.
Yeah, I'm only so old, so I can only go so far back.
Right.
And so I love to talk to older people
Yeah.
and people that have memories of
Yeah.
things prior to the 60s.
Yeah, because we need to know these things.
right.
Okay, so we have it. Swanzey Then and Now. I am the host, but Lee is probably going to be my co-host. I'm not putting you on the spot, but you have so much information. So I hope that you guys will join us and plan to just participate in this. I mean, we have so many things to be proud of in Swanzey. I have to admit, I grew up in Keene, but we moved to Swanzey about 10 years ago. I haven't gotten as involved as I could, but I love Swanzey. And what really got me was Evan Barlow's movies about rural Swanzey. What were they called? Something rural.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what it was, but I love those shows. That is what drew me into Swanzey, and they almost made me cry. Seriously, I was so proud to live. Stop it, Jodi. Okay, Swanzey Then and Now. Please watch us again, and we'll have more information. Let's share some things, and thank you, Lee.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.